I discovered 5 true Skinwalker hauntings at midnight. You won't believe what happened. A chill crept through the dark, silent desert, weaving between jagged rocks and twisted trees. A full moon hung high, casting eerie shadows that danced along the ground. That night, whispers echoed off the canyon walls, tales of skinwalkers, shapeshifters of Navajo legend, who could don the skins of animals and men, prowled the land. It wasn't just an old myth. It was a warning. People had seen them. They spoke of glowing eyes that pierced the darkness, a creature that could mimic the cries of loved ones. Heart pounding, I dared myself to step closer, each footfall stirring the dust of ancient stories. The first tale came from an old sheriff, his voice quaking with fear. He recalled a night buried in fog, where he chased a shadowy figure across the train tracks. The more he ran, the more it seemed to shift, darting between the trees. Just as he thought he'd caught it, the figure let out a blood-curdling scream, like a woman in agony. But the sheriff swore it echoed back to him. 2 voices, both mocking and pleading. He fled that night, leaving his badge behind, too terrified to face what he had seen. Then, there was Lily, the local waitress who served coffee and stories. One slow afternoon, she told me about her dog, Max. A deep growl had erupted next door, where an injured coyote lay. It yipped and howled, a cry so raw that it hurt her heart. Lily leaned out, ready to help, only to find Max barking, eyes locked on the shadows. The coyote met her gaze, and just for a heartbeat, it seemed to morph, the face twisting, turning into something human. She blinked and there was only the coyote, but Max was barking like crazy, as if he knew the truth buried beneath its coarse fur. The chill in her voice right then sent shivers down my spine. And then the stories got wilder. 5 tales, each stranger than the last. The air felt heavy, thick with unspoken fears. Every face around the campfire mirrored anxiety, disbelief, but deep down, a pulse of thrill. What could happen next? Were we the next targets? Just as I was about to dive into the next story, the wind howled, extinguishing the flames and plunging us into darkness. Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The fire crackled back to life. Its glow was fleeting, barely enough to keep our fears at bay. A shadow flickered at the edge of the light, and every bone in my body wanted to scream. Instead, we huddled together, sharing a nervous laugh, but the fear was palpable, the type that creeps under your skin and sits at the base of your spine. What if they were out there, waiting? What if one of us would vanish into the night? Only the flickering light between us and the abyss stood strong. But for how long? The fire crackled back to life with a sizzle, its warmth wrapping around us like a fragile blanket against the creeping cold. Shadows surged and lurched, morphing into shapes that felt oddly alive. I squinted into the dark, searching for anything or anyone lurking beyond the circle of light. Just as I thought I could make out something moving, a sudden rustle broke through the silence, sending our hearts racing. "Did you hear that?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. Nods of agreement rippled through the group, our eyes wide and darting. The tales we had heard seemed to come alive, coiling around us like smoke. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach, a primal urge to flee mixing with a curiosity so strong I nearly stood up. "Maybe it's just the wind," Joe replied, though his voice didn't carry the conviction he hoped for. "No, that wasn't the wind." I flicked my gaze to him, trying to mask the rising panic. It sounded like something else. Another noise, a low growl, deep and resonant, echoed in the distance. Goosebumps erupted on my skin, and I fought against the suffocating dread that threatened to engulf me. I could feel the group's cohesion falter as unease settled in. Let us just finish the story, Luke suggested, his bravado cracking ever so slightly. What was the last tale? I glanced around, desperate to give us something to focus on besides the noise. Right, the fifth story, fingers trembling. I cleared my throat. There's a tale about a boy who thought he was invincible. He often crept out late at night, mocking the Skinwalkers. He danced around the desert, challenging them to show themselves. One night, as he danced and sang, a soft voice called out to him, sweet, soothing, almost familiar. The voice, it echoed his mother's lullaby, calling him closer. The flames sparked again, illuminating worried faces. I continued. As he inched towards the sound, he realized the voice was wrong. It was too low, dragging, manipulating. Just as he turned to run, he felt a hand on his shoulder. No human hand, but a cold, clawed grip. The boy disappeared, never to be seen again. His mother searched day and night, but all she found was silence. A collective shudder rippled through us. The story was solidifying the shadows in my mind into solid figures. Do you think it was real? Sarah gasped, her wide eyes betraying her brave front. Every story has a sliver of truth, I replied, feeling the weight of my words. But suddenly, the growl erupted again, closer this time. Panic sparked a collective movement. We scrambled to our feet, our eyes scanning the dark. Just then, Max, Lily's dog, began to bark wildly, a ferocious, anxious sound that cut through the night. Max! Lily yelled, her heart racing as she struggled to keep him from bolting into the shadows. But the barking was joined by another sound, a voice, hauntingly familiar, distorted by the wind. It echoed through the canyon, mimicking the tone of our names. Sarah, Joe, Luke. The air thickened with dread. Who or what was calling us? Run! I shouted, my chest tight with fear. And we took off, leaving the flickering fire behind, adrenaline pumping as we dashed into the darkness. But as we fled, the shadows seemed to stretch and pulse, wrapping around us like a predator tracking its prey. Energy crackling. The eerie voice whispered again, closer this time, filled with a chilling sense of glee. What were we running from? And what awaited us in the abyss of the desert night? I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was out there, it wasn't finished with us yet. Would we find safety, or would we, too, fall into the tales that haunted the desert? The night felt alive, buzzing with an energy that hung in the air, thick as fog. Our feet pounded against the ground, heartbeats racing, a frenetic symphony of fear and flight. Each darting glance over our shoulders confirmed what we dreaded. The darkness was shifting behind us, blending seamlessly with the shadows that flanked our escape. Faster! I yelled, hoping to rally us, but my voice trembled. Around me, Sarah stumbled, her foot catching on an unseen rock. In an instant, I was at her side, pulling her up before she could hit the ground. Come on, we need to move, I urged, urgency claws in my throat. Then we heard it again, that growl. It reverberated through the canyon, deep and sinister, a taunt that echoed relentlessly. The sound was close now, too close. Max's barking intensified, though Lily struggled to keep him beside her. Every bark amplified the manic thrumming in my ears. Get him under control, Joe shouted, panic lacing his voice. I'm trying, Lily cried back, her eyes wide and desperate. Then came another sound, a chilling melody, higher pitched than before, weaving in and out of the darkness. Sarah, Joe, Luke. The voice was different now, alluring. My skin prickled. This wasn't a voice of comfort, but a predator's lure. Who is that? Sarah panted, glancing at me with terrified eyes. I don't know, I gasped, feeling the weight of the night pressing down. Just keep running. We were on a narrow stretch now, flanked by jagged rocks. I could see the outlines of the canyon walls looming ominously, ghostly figures in the darkness. As we rounded a bend, I swore I caught a glimpse of something moving among the boulders, a flash of white, something large and low to the ground. My pulse quickened. Did you see that? I asked, my voice shaking. See what? Luke replied, still glancing over his shoulder. That over there. I pointed blindly into the dark, dread curling in my stomach. Before anyone could respond, another growl erupted, slicing through the night with raw power. A jolt of fear coursed through me, electric and suffocating. We stumbled on, pushing through the oppressive air. A part of me screamed to stop, to look back, but survival instincts drowned that out. We finally reached a clearing, moonlight spilling onto the sand like spilled milk. The fire pit was just ahead, but it felt impossibly far away. "We can hide there," I called out, desperation fueling my legs. But as we dashed into the clearing, we froze. The fire had dimmed to embers. Shadows shifted threateningly around us, mocking our hopes of safety. "Wait, what happened to the fire?" Max growled low in his throat, his hairs standing on end, sensing something we could not. Just then, the voice came again, smooth and taunting, echoing our latest thoughts. "Looking for safety." How quaint. Each of our names dripped with a twisted sweetness. "We need to go," I shouted, turning to forge ahead, but I felt a grip on my arm, freezing me in place. Everyone stood still, eyes wide, terror rooting us. "What do we do?" Luke whispered, barely audible that I could barely think. Just as I opened my mouth to give direction, the shapes in the shadows began to emerge, glinting eyes like mirrors reflecting back fear. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath us. "Run!" I shouted again, fear launching me forward, but our legs felt heavy, encumbered by unseen chains. And then it happened. A figure lunged from the shadows, monstrous and fluid, a blur of fur and malice. It stopped just short of the clearing, poised and grinning, revealing rows of sharp, glistening teeth. As I felt terror seep into my bones, a sick realization settled in my gut. We had bargained with stories, and now they had come to claim us. Would we escape back into the safety of the night, or would we too become whispers in the wind, lost to the legends that haunted the desert? Then the voice surged, each word releasing a cold wave of panic. "You are mine, what would we do next? Were our choices even our own anymore?" The figure before us was massive, its hulking shape bathed in the dim moonlight. It prowled forward, muscles rippling beneath fur that glistened like 1,000 stars scattered across the night sky. My stomach churned. I had never believed in the stories, thought they were merely tales meant to spook children around campfires. But reality clawed at me now, as raw and terrifying as the creaturesque glare. "Back!" I shouted, backing away slowly. "Get behind me!" As I heard my friends nearer, the growl resonated from deep within the creature, twisting into a sound that reverberated through my bones. The shadows seemed to swirl and thicken around it, like dark water seeping into the clearing, and suddenly, our sanctuary felt like a trap. "What do we do, Luke?" Sarah whimpered, her voice cracking as she clutched at my arm. I could feel the tremors riffling through her body, resonating with my own fear. "Try to form a line," I urged, frantically glancing to either side of us. There had to be a way out, but the shadows had closed in too tightly, snuffing any escape. Then we heard it, a chuckle, soft and sinister, curling around us like smoke. "Nowhere to run, little ones," such a delightful scent of fear. The voice wrapped around us, caressing our senses and igniting a deeper panic. Max barked wildly, snapping at the darkness, but the sound only seemed to amuse the creature. It took a step forward, the ground trembling under its weight. I could see the glint of its teeth, sharp and menacing, reflecting our terror in its eyes. "We need to make a break for it," Joe shouted suddenly, his voice breaking through the thick atmosphere. "We can't stand here like sitting ducks." "Are you crazy?" Lily spat back, her face paled. "It's going to eat us alive." "No, it's right," I said quickly, my heart racing. "We need to move together now." Without waiting for a response, I darted left, pulling Sarah and Lily tight to me. As we broke into a sprint, I heard Joe yell for us. A fine mist of sand erupted beneath our feet, stinging my legs. I didn't look back, couldn't afford that hesitation, but I could hear the growl rising behind us, a sound of hunger and rage. We veered toward the trees bordering the clearing, where the shadows danced more wildly. A tangled mess of branches waved like arms reaching out to snag us, but I urged everyone on. Keep going. Don't stop. The ground dipped suddenly, and I lost my footing, pitching into the dirt. My hands dug in, and I rolled onto my back just in time to see the creature skidding to a halt. It locked its eyes on me, those piercing orbs narrowing with unholy interest. I scrambled backward, fear spiking through me like an electric shock. "Luke, run!" Sarah screamed, pulling me up as the creature hesitated, swaying slightly. It looked conflicted. Hunger battled with some dark motive, and I wasn't about to stick around to see which one. With a sudden surge of adrenaline, I pulled myself to my feet, lunging forward again. The night air was thick with the scent of panic as we tore toward the cover of the trees, the only signal of safety beckoning us closer. But as we dove deeper into the woods, the harmony of silence enveloped us, thick and suffocating. Where once the call of the creature echoed cruelly, now a heavy stillness reigned, an unnatural, eerie quiet. "What happened?" Joe whispered, catching up beside me, stumbling as if the darkness clung to him like a shroud. "I don't know," I panted, scanning the tree line. "I can't shake the feeling it's still watching, waiting, something's not right." Suddenly, a snap of a branch echoed nearby, slicing through the tension. We froze, hearts galloping in our chests, and turned toward the sound. "That was too close," Lily breathed, her wide eyes darting around, searching for signs of movement. Then came that voice again, seductive yet dangerous. "I see you, you cannot run from me forever." All of us stood rooted to the spot, every breath now a frantic whisper of dread, realizing the hunt was far from over. What hidden dangers lurked in this darkness? Had we merely exchanged one predator for another? The air felt different now, charged and electric, as if the forest itself had drawn a breath, holding on to something primal and dark. The trees whispered secrets, their branches rustling ominously, and every heartbeat echoed louder in my ears, driving me to madness. "Move!" I gasped, my voice nearly swallowed by the thick veil of fear. We shuffled backward, eyes darting in every direction, searching for shadows that seemed to leer back at us. Then the rustling grew louder, a cacophony of snapping branches and scuttling leaves. It was coming from all sides. "What is that?" Joe's voice cracked as he shoved past me, panic painting his features. "I don't know, just keep going. We can't stop," I urged, gripping the arms of my friends as we stumbled further into the darkness. It felt like we were running through a tunnel of shadows, and the oppressive blackness pressed heavily against our chests. Suddenly, a faint glow caught my eye, a pinprick of silver light filtering through the canvas of black. Hope flickered, igniting a wild desire to run toward it. "There, that way." I pointed, and we changed direction, sprinting harder, my lungs burning with effort as we reached the light. It revealed an ancient tree, gnarled and twisted, its trunk adorned with shimmering, silver symbols that carved into the bark, pulsating softly. My heart raced, caught in the dichotomy of fear and awe. "What is this?" Sarah whispered, her voice barely above a tremor. I think it's some kind of marker," I said, leaning closer. "Maybe it wards off whatever that thing is." But as I touched the symbols, a jolt shot through my fingertips, igniting a kaleidoscope of visions. I saw fleeting images, lives lived, horrors endured, and the creature from before. But this time, it wasn't just a hunter. It was a guardian torn between two worlds. My breath hitched. "No, it can't be, it's a skinwalker," I gasped, shocked by the realization. "A what?" Joe's brow furrowed, the worry lingering in his eyes. "Stories, I've heard them. Old tales about creatures that can shift between forms. They're not all evil. Some protect, but would it protect us?" Before I could voice my concerns, that haunting chuckle returned, rattling through the branches, relentless and mocking. "Such wisdom you think you have, little seer, but you'll find there's much more you don't understand." The wind howled, and Max barked fiercely, his head raised defiantly against the swirling malevolence. But that ancient glow faded, smothered as darkness fanned out like a tidal wave. My hope began to dissolve, fear clawing once again at my sanity. "Back to the trees," I shouted, tugging my friends away from the glowing tree. The air thickened, wrapping around us like fog, and every whisper of a branch became a scream in our heads. "Luke!" Sarah shrieked, and I turned just in time to see her stall, an icy terror locking her in place. "Go! Just go!" I yelled, my heart pounding wildly as I tried to pull her with me, but she stood rooted, staring into the depths beyond the tree. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw it, a shadow not of our making. It slinked low to the ground, its eyes glowering like burning coals, filled with a wrath that surged forth like a storm. "Run! Now!" I bellowed, my voice stark against the enveloping dread. We broke into a mad scramble, but I felt the weight of something heavy following, a dread that settled in my stomach like lead. Something wicked lingered behind us, and the chase was far from over. Would we ever find our way back to safety? With every step, the shadows closed in tighter, not just from behind, but from all sides. What was it that waited in the dark? Would it claim us, or could we find a way to escape its clutch once and for all? We sprinted deeper into the shadows, the oppressive darkness swallowing us whole. Each footfall felt like a countdown, a moment slipping away before the unseen terror would reach us. Panic washed over me, thick and suffocating. "Luke, where do we go?" Joe gasped, his voice laced with dread as he stumbled over a root. I caught him, but the urgency pushed us relentlessly onward. "Keep moving. Don't look back," I shouted. The words hung in the air, a plea more than a command. The forest around us felt alive. The trees twisted and turned, almost as if they were reaching out, controlling the very path we ran. Their bark seemed to pulse with an eerie life, mocking our desperate escape. I could hear whispers in the winds, words I couldn't understand, but they dripped with a dark foreboding. Suddenly, Max let out a low growl, freezing in place. Fear coursed down my spine, and before I could react, a low, guttural growl echoed from behind us, deep and resonant, resonating through the air like a sinister melody. "Go!" I screamed again, yanking at Max's collar to pull him along. But even my loyal dog hesitated, staring into the darkness from where we'd come. "What is it, boy?" That was when I saw it. Emerging from the shadows, a massive figure swayed, gliding through the trees with an unnatural grace. Its skin shimmered like molten silver, reflecting the faintest glimmers of the moonlight that fought through the canopy. Its eyes flared with an inner light, and my heart threatened to stop under the weight of its gaze. "Run!" I stammered, but the command felt hollow. The creature projected an overwhelming fear, a paralyzing blend of dread and awe. We fled again, tearing through the thicket. Branches clawed at our skin, tearing our clothes as if the forest itself sought to trap us. Every snap of a twig sent a jolt through my heart, reminding me of the hunter that stalked behind. "Why isn't it catching us?" Sarah gasped, barely able to keep pace. Maybe it's toying with us," I panted. "Some kind of twisted game." As if in agreement, the creature howled a sound that sent ripples through the very fabric of the night. "You think you can escape?" it taunted, its voice slithering through the air. "I know your fears, your deepest desires." I pressed forward, adrenaline surging, but each echoing word slipped into my mind, weaving a dark tapestry of doubts. "No," I shouted. "We're not afraid of you." But the creature seemed unfazed, unfurling the shadows around us. They danced and twisted, becoming forms of people we knew, friends, family faces warped in agony and fear. It whispered their names, taunting me, exposing the raw vulnerability I had buried deep. "Stop!" Sarah screamed, clutching her head. I turned to see the flicker of her confidence shattering, leaving only terror. "Get out of my head!" I spun around, my chest heaving, desperate to hold onto her sanity. "We have to stay together. It can't get us if we're united." But before I could finish my sentence, a burst of light blinded me. The ancient tree from before flashed in my mind, those silver symbols wore away to reveal new meanings. Perhaps it was more than a ward against evil. It could amplify our resolve. "Sarah, Joe, back to the tree." I yanked them away from the nightmarish specter, running with everything I had left. The shadows screamed as we rushed through, almost as if they were fighting to keep us from that light. As we approached the glowing tree, the silver symbols pulsed with a new intensity, illuminating our path in a kaleidoscope of colors. Maybe we had a chance, maybe we could break free. But behind us, the creature's growl turned into laughter, deeper and darker than ever. You think a mere trinket can save you? You have no idea what you're dealing with. I felt the air thrum with tension as we neared the glow, despair creeping back into my throat. Would it be enough? Would this ancient magical tree protect us against the darkness now breathless and hungry behind us? Next to me, the tree pulsed brighter in the darkness. Would it hold strong or crumble beneath the weight of our fears? The answer was just out of reach, and with the shadow closing in, I feared we might never discover it. As we dashed toward the pulsating tree, I felt a flicker of hope igniting in my chest. Could this strange power actually shield us? Would it stand tall against the horror surging behind us? But just as that thought brightened my spirit like the tree's glow, a wave of despair rolled over me. The shadows closed in rapidly, sinister and coiling like serpents intent on devouring us whole. I could feel Max S. bristle against my leg, his growls becoming more frantic. "Hurry! Faster!" I shouted, my voice strained as we pushed ourselves forward. The tree loomed larger, its silver symbols a beacon against the engulfing dark. But the creature's laughter rang out again, a chilling sound that echoed through the trees and sent shivers down my spine. "You think you can defy me? You are nothing but fleeting dreams in my night." Each step felt like dragging boulders behind me, the weight of dread settling heavily. My lungs burned, and no amount of adrenaline seemed to ease the tightness in my chest. I struggled to focus on the tree, the warm light beckoning us like a distant friend. "Stay together," I yelled, but the words felt almost prophetic. As if my own fear was feeding the darkness, I could see its silhouette edging closer, each movement fluid like the flicker of firelight that distracts a moth. Sarah stumbled again, her form becoming almost ghostly in the dimness. I can't do this," she gasped, her voice trailing off. I reached for her, gripping her arm tightly, as if that alone could tether her to reality. "You have to. Just a little further." Behind us, the laughter morphed into a sinister chant that echoed off the trees. "Come, come, face your fate. It is far too late." The words breached my sanity, twisting and entangling my thoughts with memories I wished to forget. Visions of loved ones, moments of happiness turned ghastly and dark. "Nothing is real," I heard Joe shout next to me. "This is all in your head." But his voice seemed small, lost to the overwhelming dread. Just then, the air around me shifted. I felt something beneath my feet. A cord of energy, pulsing and alive, splayed out from the base of the tree. The symbols seemed to weave into an intricate pattern with every fierce beat. "There!" I yelled, my heart racing as realization struck. If the tree was a ward, it could empower us. "Touch the tree. Feel its light," I urged, urging Joe and Sarah forward. We reached out together, fingers brushing against the cool, gleaming bark. At that moment, a shock wave rippled through the clearing. Bright colors exploded like fireworks, intentional shapes coiled up from the ground, embracing us in warmth and light. The creature's laughter turned shrill. It slashed through the fabric of our world with a scream, distorting my vision. "No, you're mine," it shrieked, its form shuddering as if struggling against an unseen force. As the energy encircled us, clarity struck. This tree was not merely a barrier, it was a guardian. But would it be enough? In that moment of shimmering clarity, I caught glimpses of truth behind the creature. Images of other victims flashed in my mind, souls trapped in shadow, gnawed at by fear. "We're not your prey," I cried, the words tumbling from my lips. The creature recoiled, as if stung. But just as I thought we emerged victorious, the shadows twitched violently around us. "You shall pay," it howled, and the irradiated light began to flicker. "Hold on," I shouted, focusing every ounce of will I had as the pulse of the tree began to dim. Would we truly break free from its grasp or become just another tale it wove into its haunting melody? The stakes grew impossibly high, transforming the already frantic atmosphere into a pressure cooker of chaos. "Luke!" Sarah screamed, It's coming back. I felt desperation clenching my gut, and I knew it wouldn't give up. The battle was far from over. It all hinged on the next moment. Would we summon the strength to outlast it, to turn the tide once and for all? The answer lay blurred in the shadows that wreathed us now, waiting for a sign. The air thickened, and I knew a reckoning was coming. The light from the tree flickered nervously, pulsing like a heartbeat caught in a moment of terror. I clutched the bark, my fingers gripping it as if it was my only lifeline. The shadows roared, swirling and thrashing, desperately seeking a way past this newfound barrier. "Stay close," I yelled, pulling both Sarah and Joe against the tree. Just then, the creature began to shift. It twisted in the air, elongating its form, fangs gleaming in a sinister grin. "You think you're safe?" taunted, its voice dripping with malice. "This power will not hold against me." The air crackled, and I felt the energy we summoned surging, but it was fading. The symbols carved into the bark no longer glowed with fierce brightness. My heart raced, fear clawing at me. "We can't give up," I shouted, trying to summon every ounce of strength that still lingered. "Feel it, remember who we are." Max growled deeply, his eyes fixed on the creature. There was something almost sentient in the way he moved, positioning himself protectively around us. "Come on, guys," I urged, desperation rising in my voice. "Channel the light. We can fight back." I felt Sarah's trembling hand join mine on the tree. I don't know if I can," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, you can." I pressed on, catching Joe's eye. "We all can. We can fight it together." With a sudden surge, as if waking from a long sleep, the tree flared to life again, the silver symbols lighting up with a phosphorescent shimmer. We touched the core of its power, igniting a fire within it that might keep the shadows at bay. As the light surged, I could see the creature flinch, its face contorting with rage and confusion. "No," it screeched, the sound shrill and piercing. "You're not supposed to be here. You're supposed to be mine." The world around us transformed into a kaleidoscope of color and warmth, illuminating the faces of my friends as they filled with determination. Mortality and fear turned into a shield, pushing the suffocating darkness back. "Fight!" I yelled, the words a battle call. Sarah and Joe echoed it. Together, we lifted our free hands, sending out waves of light from our palms, pushing against the ominous force trying to encroach on us. The shadows writhed and screamed, but amidst the chaos, I saw it wasn't just an ugly face of nightmares. It was shifting, changing. I recognized it for what it was, a manifestation of our deepest fears. "I won't let you win," I shouted as the light intensified. I felt raw power coursing through me like electricity, wrapping around my friends. We could beat this. We had to. The creature's form began to distort, its laughter now morphing into a cacophony of tormented cries. It was being pulled apart, piece by piece, the shadows unraveling in the face of our unity. "You'll regret this," it wailed, dawn breaking in its voice. But through the fray, I sensed something else, an undercurrent of despair, dark and potent. "What do you want?" I yelled defiantly. Was it only survival that drove this entity? Or was it a deeper, more painful hunger? Suddenly, a flash of memory struck me. The faces of those it had taken, the lives unfulfilled. The realization hit like a punch. I hadn't just witnessed fear. I had seen their pleas, their voices silenced. "Let them go," I demanded, directing the strength of my shout at the creature. With every ounce of pent-up agony coursing through my being, I channeled it into a pulse of authority that rippled through the tree, echoing like thunder. But just as it seemed we were winning, a final surge of darkness erupted from the creature, a dark wave that crashed down upon us like a storm. The energy from the tree shifted, pulling at the edges of our triumph, as if the very ground felt the weight of the shadows bearing down on us. "Stay strong," I cried, but panic began to gnaw at the edges of my resolve. Was this all just a fleeting illusion? Would we tumble back into the abyss? With everything we had, we united and pushed forward. But would it be enough? I glanced at my friends. Their faces were masked with both determination and terror. Together, I shouted, every ounce of will poured into those two words. But just as we prepared to unleash a final attempt, the ground shook, and darkness erupted, leaving us teetering on the edge of something far worse than we might ever have imagined. The shadows encircled tighter than ever, and in that moment, I knew I was about to discover the true nature of our opponent, and it was something no one could have prepared for. Would we break free, or would we plunge together into that haunting abyss? The answer felt lurking just out of reach as the darkness promised a new torment. The ground trembled beneath our feet, a deep rumble that resonated through the air, shaking my very core. I thought I could hear the whispered screams of long-lost souls wrapped in the tendrils of darkness, their pleas intertwining with the storm of shadow around us. My heart pounded in my chest like a war drum, each beat a desperate call to action. Hold on, I screamed, the words almost lost in the chaos. But my friends remained steadfast. I could see their resolve. It burned bright and steady amongst the swirling despair. The shadows tightened, clawing at our limbs, wrapping around us like a vice intent on crushing our spirits. The acrid smell of fear tinged the air, a miasma of dread that made my throat dry and my lungs burn. What is this thing? I thought, my mind racing, trying to unravel the truth lurking within those swirling depths. Each second felt like an eternity. Suddenly, a chilling shriek erupted from the depths of the encroaching darkness. It wasn't like the others, filled with rage. This one held an unsettling, mournful quality. They are mine, it howled, the very ground vibrating with its fury. You cannot take them from me. Tremors of unease rippled through me as I caught glimpses of once familiar faces rotating in and out of the murky haze. I froze, my gut twisting painfully. It was like looking into a distorted mirror. Maria? I gasped, my eyes widening. Is that you? Her features flickered, trapped in a silent scream. The shadow was stealing the life around her, siphoning her essence, her spirit. Overwhelmed, I tried to reach for her, but the shadows pushed me back, sending jolts of icy fear through my bones. Max growled defiantly, barking fiercely at the darkness, his protective instincts kicking in, urging us to stand our ground. Come on. I barked at Sarah and Joe, my voice trembling with urgency. We have to fight harder. Just then, the tree shimmered again, urging life through its branches. It seemed to pulse with our growing intensity, amplifying our determination and fear. Channel everything you've got, I cried, looking deep into Sarah's eyes. The flicker of hope ignited again, like the very first flame of a campfire on a cold night. As earth-shattering roars erupted, we raised our hands once more, allowing the light to trickle through our bodies and spill forth, illuminating the space between us and the darkness. I felt every drop of energy gathering, channeling our collective anguish and desire to protect the lost. Let them go. You're not their keeper, I commanded, fueled by the sight of the faces twisting in sorrow. A ripple surged through the shadows, forcing it to stagger back, even if momentarily. But just as the tide seemed to shift, the creature howled in fury, the sound twisting into something guttural and feral that sent chills racing up my spine. You think you can save them? They are bound to me, tethered by despair. Each word echoed with haunting certainty, a shameful truth clawing at the edges of my mind. What if it was right? What if I loved them too late to ever truly save them? The thought pierced me like a knife. Desperate and bitter, in that instant of despair, the shadows launched forward, a brutal wave crashing against our defenses, sending us staggering backward. No! I screamed, the desperation bursting from my lips. I could feel the weight of the world crumbling around us. And yet, in that very moment, I felt something new, a surge of unexpected courage igniting within me like wildfire. Maybe the shadows were relentless, but they weren't invincible. Together, I yelled, a primal battle cry that echoed into the depths. But just as the light began to take solid form, there was a sudden and deafening silence, a dark calm before the storm. What lay ahead felt ominous, with an unseen dread lingering in the air. My heart raced. I couldn't shake the feeling that the darkness had secrets yet to reveal, twisting and shifting like a predator disguised in shadows. What would we face next? I trembled at the thought, knowing one thing for sure. The deepest darkness was yet to come, and I had no idea of the cost or the truths that awaited us on the edge of that abyss. Would we be ready to confront them? The light pulsed, straining against the encroaching darkness, a last flicker of hope in an ocean of despair. I could feel the weight of the shadows pressing down, thick and suffocating, clawing at my mind, threatening to consume everything I held dear. But in this moment, something shifted. "Stay with me." My voice was a lifeline, a tether binding us together against the swirling chaos. Sarah's eyes met mine, bright with resolve, a flicker of determination igniting a blaze within us all. I could see Joe nodding, the fear in his gaze transforming into a fierce resolve. Together we could fight. Together we would resist. "Max, get ready," I commanded, feeling the energy crackle between us. The shadows wavered around us, uncertain, and I could practically taste the triumph lingering just at the fringes of our desperation. The ominous laughter of the creature echoed in my ears, sharp and taunting. "You think you have power, but all you have is ignorance. They are mine, forever." It was almost enough to make me doubt our chances, but I pushed that thought aside. Instead, I focused on the tree, the shimmering symbols pulsing like a heartbeat that echoed our own. I placed my hand on the bark, willing every ounce of our strength into the ancient markings, feeling its warmth seep into my bones. "Channel your fears. Fight it with love," I shouted, my words spilling out like a battle cry swallowed by the night. Each breath pressed against the darkness, my heart thumping loud enough to shatter the night's stillness. "You are not just shadows. You are light. We are light." Fingers entwined, we focused our hearts, sending waves of brilliant energy spiraling outward. The shadows began to retreat, recoiling from our collective light, but the creature that plagued us flared in response. "You think you can defeat me?" It hissed, but its confidence began to waver, the shadows losing their grip on our spirits. "Let them go," I commanded again, unleashing the torrent of light from the depths of my heart. Suddenly, the creature faltered. The cacophony of rage turned to surprised wails, and I was struck by the sight of faces swirling within the shadows, trapped yet yearning for freedom. Each face was a story, a life woven into the fabric of our fight. As I summoned that realization, I poured our collective energy toward them, reaching through the darkness that held them captive. "We're here. We see you. You're not alone. Fight with us." One by one, the faces responded, flickering out of the darkness. I could hear faint whispers, voices of those trapped souls echoing in unison with our own, rising, pushing back against the darkness that had claimed them. It was their anger, their pain, and their hope fueling our strength, turning desperation into a surge of defiance. Together, we cried, louder now, the chorus ringing through the chilling night. Then, with one final surge, I felt the tree pulse with our collective light, exploding outward in a blinding wash of warmth and energy. The creature screeched, its form buckling as if shattered by the force of our resolve, the darkness dissipating like mist before the sun. With one last echo of pain, the shadows began to crumble, sucked back into the void. "No!" It roared, but the sound faded quickly, drowned by the mighty chorus of liberation rising within us. The faces glimmering through the dark turned toward the light, and in that moment of pure communion, I could feel the peace of their release as the shadows faded. I collapsed to my knees, breathless yet strangely calm. The air felt lighter now, as if a weight had been lifted, and the once relentless specter of fear dispersed into whispers. Max, panting fiercely, nestled beside me, his weary eyes reflecting the remnants of what just transpired. The tree stood tall, its silver symbols glowing softly against the night. A deep sense of calm washed over the clearing where darkness once prevailed. My friends staggered forward, finding their own breaths again, marveling at our victory. We did it," Sarah murmured, wonder coloring her voice. "Yes," I replied, reaching for her and Joe, pulling them into a tight embrace. "But we must remember, next time, if there is a next time, we must never forget the power of unity." Around us, the desert began to settle, the night returning to its tranquil self. The earlier tales of dread felt like a distant whisper against the peace now lingering. But we knew the echoes of our shared battle would remain, burning bright in our hearts. What should we do now? Joe asked, his eyes flicking to the horizon, where dawn began to paint the sky with hints of orange and pink. Now I took a deep breath, filled with the sweetness of newfound freedom. Now we go home, share our story, and remember those we fought for. Together, we turned, hearts alive with resolve, heading back through the desert that once felt perilous but had transformed into a realm of endless possibility. And as the sun broke above the canyon, real stories of courage were birthed from the desert shadows, leaving the legends of Skinwalkers forever changed. Don't forget, you need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm, and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this unbelievable conclusion. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how true courage can prevail. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.